Canal, who drives for both Uber and Lyft, said he currently rents a 2014 Toyota Camry for $610 a week. Man, he said he expects to save by paying $800 to $900 a month to finance a Tesla. That's pretty wild. 650 a week times 52. That's 50 grand a year. He could buy 3 or 4 2014 Toyota Camrys for that price. He will save if he pays $800 a month. Let's see how much money he'll save. So 50 grand for the year. Let's do 900 times 12, like 40 grand by doing that. But still, I would get a used car. That's $900 a month is still a lot. Uber and Lyft driver Handy said he was standing in line for the same reason. Uber said if I have the VIN number by tomorrow, I can get the plate. He started driving limousines 20 years ago, told the news that he currently pays $550 a week to rent a Toyota Highlander. That's insane. Cheaper than the used 2014 Camry. And the Highlander you can get Uber XL on that. But man, those numbers are insane. People really try to justify renting cars, and there's just no way to do it. My first thought now is if you can afford renting a car for this amount, why do you just jump into a Tesla? Like, why not just buy a used car? I guess because of the TLC plates. Okay, so if you don't know what a TLC plate is, it's just the equivalent of getting like the proper business form set up for your car in order to do rideshare. Last week, I reported on how New York City limits how many rideshare drivers there are to about 78,000, and then they release the limit only if you have an electric car. NYC, they're trying to make it more electric friendly. So we're starting to see some of the repercussions of that policy. Applications for new Uber and Lyft license plates poured into the Taxi and Limousine Commission Thursday, a day after a judge ordered the agency to stop accepting new ride requests by Monday in response to a lawsuit by the New York Taxi Workers Alliance. So I actually had the lawsuit pulled up here. Their main complaint is that this policy, which was announced on October 18th, 2023, was implemented immediately without prior notice and was decided without notice and comment rulemaking. So New York City pretty much went ahead behind their back and they made this law to where if you want to be a rideshare driver, you can get your TLC plates as long as it's an electric car. So the TLC received 772 applications for their coveted plates on Thursday, an agency source told the Daily News, more than any other day since the city lifted a cap on plates last month for those applying to drive plug-in electric vehicles. So that's pretty crazy, right? So the new law caused drivers to flock to the TLC commission in order to, get their electric cars, try to get the plates going. That means 772 people went out and got an electric car. The run on electric vehicle tax comes just hours after Manhattan Supreme Court issued a temporary restraining order that goes into effect Monday morning, halting all new applications. That's because of the lawsuit. If you didn't have your application in for your TOC plate, it's going to be indefinitely paused until this lawsuit is responded to. Before Mayor Adams' administration moved to allow an unlimited number of electric for hire vehicles, the city had capped the number of Uber and Lyfts and other for hire cars at around 78,000, which that's a lot. If you had asked me to guess how many drivers there are in New York City, I wouldn't have guessed that many. And the fact that they still make money is pretty cool. The NYTWA, an organization of 28,000 taxi, Uber, and Lyft drivers, brought the suit out of fear that the city's decision to allow an unlimited number of electric for hire vehicles on city streets will saturate the taxi for hire car market, driving down profits for all. So that is a legitimate concern. I can understand that as a rideshare driver. So I get it. That makes sense. I assume the idea here is to phase out all rideshare drivers who aren't driving electric by flooding the market, but the people who have higher car notes are going to be the ones that suffer the most. But in Red Hook, Brooklyn, on Thursday, a line of 24 rideshare drivers lined up around the corner of Van Brunt Street from the entrance of a Tesla dealership on Summit Street, eager to boost their own bottom lines by buying an electric car and applying for TLC plates before Sweeting's order took effect. All said they were hoping to leave with the vehicle identification number required by the TLC's application process. Near the front of the line, I'm not going to butcher his name, said he wanted to get his application in on time. It's going to close soon, he said that set of the application window. At that price, Roman said he has to work 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. See, what's the point of having an expensive car if it's just going to force you to work more hours? And a lot of people do this. Instead of like lowering their bills, they'll increase their bills, work more hours, and then complain that they're not making enough money. I don't get it. I don't get it. 3 meals on the road, gas prices, and $100 a day for rent. There's not much you can save. Well, maybe if you made your food at home, Yeah, I get gas prices. You can't get around that. Gas prices in New York are more expensive than most places around the nation. Not more expensive than California. And 100 a day for rent. Well, that's your fault. If you're renting, you need to be driving 18 hours a day until you can buy your own car. And that should be your main focus, getting out of that rental car. All of the drivers who spoke with the news Thursday said they were currently renting a car at rates that range from 400 to 600 a week. As previously reported by the news, roughly 10,000 of the 78,000 TLC for hire vehicle plates in circulation are controlled by one of three companies: American Lease and Management, Tower Leasing, and Voyager Global Mobility. I didn't know that was a thing. I assumed that they're buying the cars, they're getting their cars plated for TLC, and then renting out those cars. That needs to stop. I'm not a huge fan of that. I It's great for someone who doesn't have a car and they're trying to get started up, but it can become a trap, and I'm not a huge fan of that. On Thursday evening, towards the end of the line, another driver who asked that his only his first name be used out of fair retribution from the rental companies told the news he pays $525 a week for a TLC plated Nissan Altima. Ron says it sounds like some of the lawmakers have stock in Tesla. That was one of my first thoughts. I felt like Tesla had a role in this. I know they've been complaining that because of the interest rate hikes, that their sales have been going down. So this is a really great way to get 700 plus drivers on your platform. Like I can see that. Ron asks, can a Tesla battery even last 12 hours between charges? And the answer to that, I believe, is no. How many hours can a Tesla battery last? Tesla battery lasts approximately 303 to 405 miles on a full charge and is reported to last about, what is that? What does that mean in time? I know I can do like on a long day. I don't know how that would calculate to in time. Let's ask Bard instead. So Bard is AI. How many hours can a Tesla last before needing to be charged? The number of hours a Tesla can last before needing to be charged depends on several factors, including the model of the Tesla driving style. However, as a general rule of thumb, you can expect a Tesla to last between 2 and 8 hours before needing to charge. That's crazy variance, but okay, we'll call it 8 hours. So no, it can't last that long, and I'm just not a fan. When I'm grinding, I don't like to take breaks if I don't have to take a break, and I wouldn't even be able to take long distance rides without having to fear that I wouldn't even be able to charge. So that's not a huge win there for me. But New York, they're having some other issues. As New York City's fleet of electric Uber and Lyft and Rebel cars grows, fears rise as charging network won't meet demand. So this is another issue, right? We're talking about it won't even last long enough for a 12-hour shift. It Then you have to find a charger where another car isn't, and you have to hope that the electrical grid can sustain it. As New York's fleet of Uber, Lyft, and other for hire vehicles moves towards a zero emission mandate by 2030, what is that, 7 more years? Concerns are growing that the number of car charging stations popping up across the 5 boroughs won't be enough to meet driver demand. The problem may become more acute as the City Taxi and Limousine Commission eliminates its limit on the number of electric vehicles that operates as an app based rideshare. Of the 78,000 cars currently authorized by the TLC, roughly 2,200 are electric vehicles. The TLC expects the fleet to be 25% electrified by the end of 2026. That's I like it for the sake of being green. I don't like it for the cost to drivers. Electric vehicles are really expensive right now, and if the price comes down, I'd consider one. But right now, like even a used Tesla is like 30 grand plus. If that happens, roughly 19,500 electric vehicles for hire will be on the street. All of them will be hungry for scarce electric chargers, says researchers with the U.S. Department of Energy and the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. The existing charging network in New York City is not adequate even in the most optimistic scenario. There's some research behind it. Although charging is demanded in areas nearby high trip demand, fast charging ports are also demanded in areas near driver residence as a supplement for home charging in scenarios with limited overnight charging access. I was just up there, as I said in the beginning, and there are a lot of cars up there. There are a lot of charging stations. I would say it's it's probably the best place to be if you have an electric car. California might be better. I haven't been there, but the network they have there is pretty cool. But if they're expecting a flock of like electric cars, like what was it, 25% of 77,000? That's a lot of cars. By the time the electric for hire fleet, it's 21,000 cars, right? A benchmark for the TLC hopes to achieve by 2027, 3 years before it needs to be full electric. The city will need more than 1,000 direct current fast chargers capable of topping up a car's battery in 20 minutes to an hour will be required citywide. Now, I will say, if I'm someone that's looking to capitalize on money, having an electric car by 2027, like that would put you in a great position when 2030 comes and everyone else, pretty much caught with their pants down. The city currently has 187 direct fast chargers. Wait, how many do they need? They need benchmark these 1,000. So they need 1,000 to sustain 21,000 cars, additional cars, and they currently have 187. What is that? Like less than 20% of what they need, but they do have time. They do have time. I don't know what they're gonna do. So it's like we're trading fossil fuel for electricity, but it doesn't seem as if we'll be able to keep up with the demand for electricity. So Truth Freedom asks, is this for New York only? So yeah, well, no. So by 2030, I believe the government. Let's look. 2030 electric only. There's been some news stories about it. I know California has like a mandate by 2030 everything needs to be electric, including like lawnmowers and things like that. But I don't think there's a federal. I know Canada has one. I see Volvo plans to sell only electric cars by 2030, and there's a couple manufacturers that are doing this, and usually they do it because the government tells them they have to. See, Mercedes Benz all electric 2030, Nissan all electric 2030. Let's see what the White House fact sheet. Biden Harris administration announces new private and public sector investments for affordable electric vehicles. Let's put in 2030, see what pops up. So right here, as part of President Biden's goal of having 50% of all new vehicle sales be electric by 2030, the White House is announcing public and private commitments to support America's historic transition to electric vehicles. Now, Biden could leave office and someone can change this. That can happen, but we're moving towards electric. That's what is happening. For better or worse, hopefully that driver's price is down, but this is what's happening. Rolls Royce, electric only. Like it's becoming the thing that's happening. Ron says it is for New York, but only gives 5 years and will trickle down to smaller markets, right? Mike B says all these electric cars are gonna break the grid. Yeah, that's what's gonna happen. We're gonna have to so it's like we as humans, we don't prevent things very well, but we are reactionists. So I assume we'll figure out how to deal with the grid, but I don't like judging my investments based off of that because that's money we're talking about.